Claudette Colvin sat down on a bus. She was a 16-year-old teenager. Was tired, sat down on a bus 9 months before Rosa Parks. You're not going to hear that history because you want to be believed. The people who control the history want to tell you that the civil rights movement began with Rosa Parks because it will include the organizations that were involved, the NAACP, this kind of thing. Because then it has more fluff, more pageantry. You don't get to see the continual resistance by people saying, no, no, no. We demand to be treated as human beings. Claudette Colvin was the first one. Claudette Colvin is the one, if you Google the history, you'll find that the suit that was brought in her name, not in Rosa Parks' name. Rosa Parks is the figurehead. But that's what history does to you. You all are running around here, we all are running around here, thinking that the people who would oppress, the people who would degrade us, would be the ones who would tell us the truth about the history. And we're wrong. So jettison up now to 1955. Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. That's law. That's people of color going to court to fight for the right to go to school. Here you all are sitting here in a school. You're sitting in a school because at some point they said separate but unequal is the law of the land. That was the civil rights movement. The government had said, the Supreme Court had said, separate schools for black, separate schools for white. We don't want you mixing. The mistake that the civil rights movement made was that they thought that by putting black kids and white kids in a classroom together, that would be a better experience for black kids. It turned out, historically, to be a better experience for white kids, because frankly, they never implemented it. They never implemented Brown. It hasn't been implemented till this day. But you as Muslims, you're in a unique situation. You don't have the baggage of, I gotta sit next to this white dude. I gotta be bused to this black school. You come here because you're looking to gain an education, but it's on the back of those people who fought that revolution to gain entrance into schools that have quality. See, that's what they should have been fighting for. Not to be in a school sitting next to a white kid, sitting into a school that is going to educate. But without that struggle, none of you would be here today, sitting in a classroom where you can get an education free from somebody running up here and throwing a bomb through your window. Without that struggle, you should all be thankful for Thurgood Marshall. You should be thankful for the lawyers who fought that case. You should be thankful for the psychiatrists who put that case together. Every one of us should be thankful for that. Now, who are the two most profound figures in the civil rights movement? Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Did you know that Martin Luther King is associated with nonviolent social change? Is that his theory, right? And Malcolm X is associated with by any means necessary, am I right? Why is it, do you think, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would put these two guys on the earth in the same place at the same time with two diametrically opposed philosophies? See, because here's what was going on. When everybody was watching King saying, look out, and when you all go see the movies and everything and you glorify over the civil rights movement, there were people who were fighting, resisting with arms in America during the same time. And they were arguing with King, and they were arguing against King, and they were arguing against Malcolm X, and they were arguing with Malcolm X, that we can't win a fight with arms, and we can't win a fight by sit-ins. So there was a tremendous debate in our communities. But that debate led to one thing. Fear in the overarching community that if one side lost, the other side might win that debate. Imagine what would happen if the people who were nonviolent social changers had lost the debate. Imagine if the Black Panther parties of the world, the Malcolm X's thought processes of the world, the Richard Williams philosophies of the world. You're going to Google these names, so you go look them up. Member of the NAACP who argued while he was a member of the NAACP, this very quiet, peaceful organization, that they need arms to defend their own communities. These are black soldiers coming back from World War I. They had fought in World War I and World War II so that they could show the world that we are humans, we have fought for this country, we deserve the right to be treated. And the country was saying no. They had a GI Bill. They brought white folks in for GIs, and they gave them homes, and they gave them loans. And when they came to the black soldiers, they said, no, you can't have that same loan. We fought for the same country. There's where we are. That's the history. So now you got the Malcolms of the world and the Kings of the world. And so somebody had to make a decision, a political decision. And the person it fell on was President Johnson. That's what civil rights movement did. It brought together a conglomerate that Allah brought all these powers to put pressure on America to be able to say, change your way, America. Martin Luther King said to you in that, you need to change your way, America, because I can see the Lord rising up and breaking the backbone of your civilization. Malcolm X said, look, you're either going to do it by the ballot or we're going to do it by the bullet. When you begin to read these speeches, you have to see these speeches, read these speeches in a context. When King says the greatest purveyor of violence in the world is my own government. He didn't just say I had a dream. See, because people of color have just like you all do, see the world in the dream, the ideal, when the reality is that it has never once stood for the ideal that it's supposed to stand for. You stand for that ideal. You bring the reality. You are the Muslims. You are the ones who are going to take what was left in the civil rights movement, where they left off at, where they made their mistakes at, and bring to them clarity. You are going to be the ones who, when you hear Al-Asa, you're going to be able to say to them, be patient. Allah is with the right. And here's how you do right. Our Islam overtook the Mongols, the greatest horde ever known to mankind. But they saw how the Muslims moved, and they loved it. North Africa was the same way. West Africa was the same way. They saw how the Muslims moved, how we respected each other, how we loved Allah and Allah alone, and how we wouldn't submit to anything else. And lo and behold, what did they do? They succumbed. They submitted. They want you to believe Islam was spread by the sword. Look, how many of you converted to Islam because somebody put a sword to your head? Raise your hands. How many of you are in Islam because you love this deen? You love the brotherhood. Look, I'm here for one thing. My son has a friend who is a Muslim. That Muslim and my son are brothers. That Muslim invited my son to his home. His family invited me and my family to their home. Muslims doing what Muslims do. That's love. You can't replace that. No matter where you go in the world, everybody's asking for one thing. Love your fellow man. Who does it? The only people who have a doctrine that would allow it to be done is the Muslims. We love you just because you're Muslim. I don't care if you're Pakistani. It's so irrelevant to me. You are Muslim. I don't care if you're a Celtic. That's irrelevant to me. You said, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. That's what brings the love. When we get to the point to where we can see that love, the civil rights movement and every other movement is waiting for that statement. Malcolm X said this when he came back from the Hajj. May Allah be pleased with him and bless him. Funny story about that. I'll tell you one time about how we came to know Malcolm X. Extra minutes. Let me tell you this real funny story. You ready for this? I'm like maybe what? 9, 10, 11, maybe 12. I'm home, Elizabeth, New Jersey. The word goes out, Malcolm X is dead. Oh my God. There was the immigrant community, brand new immigrants. You can't argue with brand new immigrants because in '65, the act that brought brand new immigrants into this country was by virtue of the civil rights movement. The U.S. Immigration Act of '65 was by virtue of the civil rights movement. So all of you should say thank you to Martin Luther King. I ain't no Christian, but I know he put the work in. In any event, we get this call. My phone rings. My father's phone. I'm like, He's like, wow, mashallah. Yeah. I'm like, is he 12 years old? I'm curious, right? Malcolm X is dead. Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz is dead. I'm 13, 14 years old. I don't really know the times. I know who Malcolm X is. I was like, really? Nobody wants the body. Nobody wants the body. We all know. You ask your imams and you ask your grandfathers and everything, that is a right that a Muslim has over you, right? We all know that, right? That's a right for the Muslim to go get that body and bury him. But the immigrant community was new to America. So they had to back off. There was a war between the Nation of Islam and something called Sunni Muslims in New York. And they were thinking that the nation was the one who killed Malcolm. So people from the Sunni community were pensive. The phone call that came from Brooklyn, New York, asking were there any Muslims in Elizabeth, New Jersey, who would come claim this body. MashaAllah. Look, in my community back then, 64, 65, there were 2 families of Muslims. I lived at 602 South Park Street, me and my 8, 9 brothers and 2 sisters. And across the street, at 601 South Park Street, lived Hisham Jabber and his sons, Taha, Muhammad, Ali, Rashid, and their family. Across the street. You know what they said? We'll come get the body. I was like, I ain't going to get no body. These cats ain't playing. Are you kidding me? They got together in the house. They mapped out a strategy, and the rest is history. I refer you to 2 books. I Buried Malcolm by Haji Hisham Jabber, Elizabeth, New Jersey. Walked out of my doorstep, boom, got into the car, went over and claimed the body. Did the janaza for this brother. And Color Me Muslim by Muhammad Jabber, who was sitting in the room. I'm 13, 14, Muhammad is 12. We both doing like see what's going on. And then when they talk about they're going to go get it, now look, I'm going to tell you the sort of stuff about it. Because if you say you're going over to New York to get something, you better be ready to go to New York to get something, in case you all understand what that means. I'm not violent, but they were ready to go get something. All right? But that's the story. And you can verify it in the history book. But in any event, that's where it leads us. Who are we? Islam don't need Muslims. Muslims need Islam. The world needs the Islam. Bring your best Islam to your brother, and the world will see it. Bring your best Islam to the Kafir, and the Kafir will see it.